Howdo! It's base time again, and today we're looking at the body. So I need to turn this rough chunk of basswood into some beautiful body wings for this through neck 5-string bass. Okay, so this is the crux of what we're doing today, is taking this big ugly slab and cutting it down to the right sizes. So it's too thick, it's obviously really rough, and you can see it's got quite a dish in there as well. So we need to get rid of all of that. So it's guitar thickness, nice and flat, with 2 flat edges, because I'm really hoping that I can get one of these wings cut out of one side and then the other wing cut out of the other side. That would be nice. If we can't do that, then I'll have to do the same with another piece of wood to get both wings in. So how do we get this to the dimensions and the nice flat straightness that we actually want? Well, you could use a great big machine. Stick it through one end, it comes out the other, it's all nice and flat and smooth. But I don't have one of them, so I'm going to use hand planes. So I've got 2 hand planes here. This is just a standard Stanley record, whatever company, number 4 smoothing plane. So that blade that goes across there is almost, not perfectly, almost flat. It's got the slightest imperceptible curve on it, just so that the edges don't dig in. But effectively that's flat. It gives us a nice flat surface when we move along. This plane, however, is a big ugly thing. So this is a Stanley Sb3. I hate this plane when trying to use it for its original purpose. This used to have a flat blade, just like this one, but it adjusts with these 2 wheels rather than this one wheel at the back. And trying to get this to work with a small little cap on there, it was always a hideous thing to use. So what I've done is I've turned it into a scrub plane. So you see this blade on here has a huge curve to it, and what that does is that hogs off big thick chunks of material in one go. So we could do all of this work with a standard smoothing plane. That would work. This is a hell of a lot quicker. So this is going to get us down to a flat surface, but you'll see lots of ripples in it from where this curve digs in. Then we can smooth it all out with this one. Now we go slightly differently with a scrub plane than we do a normal plane. Normally with this we'd want to be working with the grain, going along like that, taking nice clean shavings off. A scrub plane, we actually want to go kind of diagonally across. Because of the curvature in here, what it's going to do is it's going to cut that end of the grain and cut that end off the grain and create a channel in the middle. If we go in like this, because this is set quite deep, it will still want to chip and chunk bits off, basically. So what I'm going to do is go across like this. So fairly quickly we can see where it's taken edges off here, and we're getting close in this middle section. Right, so there we go. So we've seen in there, we've now got a line all the way through. You can probably see that there's groove marks going that way, where that curvatured blade is cutting through. But nothing's chipping off, nothing's doing anything funky, but we've now got a flat edge all the way through there. So all I've got to do now is go from start to finish all the way across, and this will then be pretty flat. So we can see there now, we've gone across, we've got these grooves that we've put in from the scrub plane, which needs flattening, but if we put the ruler across, we've now got pretty flat. It's not perfect, but it's pretty flat most of the way along. And then here's the difference between the thickness that the scrub plane can take off, quite chunky, compared to what the smoothing plane takes off, which is wafer thin. So this is where I'm going to use my smoothing plane now to just run through and just take all those little hills and valleys off. One nice flat edge. Can you see the shine off that? Just from using the plane. That gorgeous shine. Lovely. Now one last thing to check when we flatten something off is that we haven't flattened it off with a twist anywhere. So this is where we use what we call winding sticks. Basically two nice flat sticks. I've put a black edge on there and a nice little center point on both of them. And the reason we put a black edge is because as we lift it up, we can then see if the far end is out of twist. And you see that's nice and flat. It's not doing that. It's not doing that. And the other end's all nice and flat as well. So both of those sit parallel with each other as we look at them. Right, so now that we have one nice flat face, that becomes our reference for all the other sides that we're going to do. So now I'm going to work on both of these edges to get those nice and flat, because they will become the jointing edges that's going to go on the side of the neck. So all I need to do now is I can put this in the vise. I can run just the smoothing plane along there because I don't need to take off a big chunk. It's literally just get it smooth. And I can use this face to reference off to make sure that I am going to be square all the way along as well. So nice and flat, but is it square? No, you can see it's high at this end. Now the way to fix that isn't to then try and tilt it to make sure it gets flat. It's just run down this edge, halfway overlap, and then we gently come further in towards the middle. So take a few stripes off, see what happens. Better, but not fully there yet. I think I'll take that. And then just do the same on the other side. Now remember again, if you're planing both sides of one board, best off turning it that way, and you're far more likely to find that the grain's working with you again. There we go. Lovely. And with that, we then have a nice flat face and two very square, crisp edges. So all we've got to do now is deal with this edge. Now, like we said before, this is way too thick. So we're looking at, I'm going to take it down to 45mm before we really kind of work with the bass guitar itself. But let's go. So what have we actually got here? We've got 60, bit excessive. So what I'm going to do is just mark off from this nice flat clean face that we've got, 45mm line all the way through. Do you know what? After actually marking this off, you see just how much there is to take off there. A full finger's width. I'm not going to remove that with a plane. That's a hell of a lot of planing to do. So it looks like I'm going to have to use a saw. And it's at this point I wish I had a massive bandsaw. If there's any massive bandsaw companies out there and you want to give me one, I will gladly take one off your hands. Okay, so top tips for sawing all the way down big long cuts. Don't just start like that and keep cutting all the way down, because there's a massive chance that your saw can wander and you might be looking accurate on this side and find that that far side is just cutting into where you want. So start it off at the top. Again, don't go right up to the line. Give yourself a bit of room for some planing to do at the end, so that we know again it's going to be as accurate as possible. And what I'm going to do is work the saw down at this end. So try and keep this end buried into that little section, and I'm going to keep cutting until the saw goes down like this. Once I get to an uncomfortable position, I'm actually going to then swap sides and do the same thing from there. So I know I'm cutting accurately down both sides all the way down. I'll tell you what, this is going to take quite a while. So instead of you watching me do this, let's just do this. And there we go. One board. So after a rest and a haircut, we're ready for the last stage, which is simply to plane it flat down to that score marking that we put all the way around the edge. And that board is completely set, done, ready to use for any of the guitar building stuff you're ever going to do. And if you ever need to light a fire, this stuff's awesome. And that's how we go from big rough lumber to something a little bit smooth and lovely and the right size. So in the next video, I'll be marking off exactly where the wings come out of this, cutting them out, and maybe even attaching it to the body. Now that I finally have some nice Fishman Fluence pickups, I can decide exactly where they're going to go, mark it all off, and cut the body to suit. We might even be looking at putting some weight relief into here as well. So we're going to weigh everything up and decide whether we want to hollow out some of this just to make it that little bit lighter. If you like the sound of that, make sure you click the subscription thingy and ring the little notification bell to make sure you're aware of what's coming up. And if you'd like me to make you a guitar, get in touch. We can build your dream carved anything. If you want to get started with using lots of hand tools, then definitely grab a copy of my book, Be a Self-Taught Woodworker. It's pretty fantastic. Go and get yourself a copy. Until I see you again, catch out this video and then go and sharpen your tools, and I'll see you soon. God bless.